Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 11th of March, comes to you from London. And there's a lot of red on the screen today. And so let's get down and look at the charts. And I'm going to look at currencies, then stock indices. We'll have a look at some of the US tech stocks. Big news there, especially with Nvidia's fall on Friday. And then I'll look at commodities and energy last in the mix. So first of all, we're looking at the dollar. Downside target here on the dollar to about 188 points on the dollar index. And that is not enough actually to activate this downside target. It might just do it. So we're waiting for this medium-term picture to play out. The short-term picture is giving us some clues. The euro is therefore looking stronger against that weaker dollar with upside targets there. And if we look at sterling, interestingly, we have activated the upside target to 142.50 with that move, weaker dollar. Sterling now looking stronger. So this downside target didn't activate. So dollar weakness is very much the key there. Now Bitcoin is above 77,000. Above 70,000 for the first time, just nudging 72,000. So new highs there. The 60-minute targets met. The longer term target to 90,000 very much in train now. That was given back at 52,000 and said to be reached by the end of this year. It's happening a lot faster than that. So it looks like we'll get to 90,000 relatively quickly. That's the target. Looking at the Nasdaq, we had, of course, that Nvidia fall on Friday, down some 10%. And that has also just pushed the market lower. We activated a new downside target, some 3.5% lower. We have upside targets. We have a downside target. We're not through the cloud yet. The long-term picture is still pretty good. But the short-term, we are seeing now that coming away. And if we look at the Nasdaq, the E-mini S&P, similar downside target, only 2% lower. Price just below the cloud. The lagging line not quite through yet. So that's quite key as well. We're seeing European markets following suit. We've got the FTSE future. That's down this morning. And we are waiting for this upside target to activate, but that's not really looking like it's going to happen. And if you look at the DAX, the cash market, long-term upside target, this target met on the 60-minute chart. Quite a big gap down this morning, down 0.7%. So interesting to see there. Of course, we will take our cue from what's going on in the US. Japan actually is down 2% overnight. Downside target given and met in the same session. So, but we still do have long-term upside targets there. And if we look at China, we've seen this recovery in the Chinese market really sharply off the bottom. The downside targets were met, new upside target and through the cloud. So China actually now looking better for Chinese stocks. And if we look at the Aussie market, that was down 1.8% overnight. So again, a sharp decline there. That US move on Friday not at all helping. We'll take a quick look at Nvidia. In fact, I've got Nvidia on a different screen this morning. That's the bearish engulfing candle. There's just no denying that that is bearish engulfing. The upside target on Nvidia is still pretty spectacular, but now we've got a new downside target. And remember, the rule of thumb with the targets is that's the first move. The resultant move will be around 2 times that first move. So that's the target. Back to 734, some 20% lower. So it looks like Bitcoin has, Nvidia has seen a little bit of an end to its run, unlike Bitcoin, of course. So that's really quite interesting. Some of the other stocks that have been looking pretty weak, of course, Apple, and we saw a tech sell-off on Friday, a little bit of recovery there towards the end, but realistically, we are below the cloud. We've got a downside target, 10% lower on Apple, and the other one is Tesla. That's been looking pretty weak as well. Downside target, some 48% lower. New downside target activated on Friday. You really can't ignore the fact that it's just not looking good. A quick look at gold. We had gold looking still looking very strong. We've run out of targets on the short-term chart. You can go down to the shorter-term still chart and you'll get targets. But we have got this target here. And, of course, the long-term target on gold, the weekly, is spectacular. Some 2 years out, though, but still spectacular. So that's really quite key as well. And if we look at 10-year yields, of course, we had the non-farm payroll numbers out on Friday. They were revised lower, but we do have these downside targets on yields. representing a feeling that actually interest rates are starting to bite in the US, and so maybe we'll see a rate cut sooner rather than later, but it wasn't enough to help the market selling off on those tech stocks. Now look at the energy mix quickly. We've got we were neutral out this morning on crude oil, US NatGas, bearish on carbon, neutral on European gas, and bearish on power. It's just really what the charts were saying first thing, and of course that's the thing, is the picture is changing all the time. If we can get above $84 on Brent crude, we activate a target to 100. We are in a really quite sharp trading range between 81 and 84, and that's where we're trading at the moment. So until we break that range, it's a bit of a hard call. If we look at US NatGas, this has actually looked a little bit better this morning, but again, it's in a range between $1.75 and $2, and we have mixed targets, so a mixed picture, and there's just no getting around that. If you're trading US NatGas, you will be wanting to look at the 1-minute charts, and you can see here how they've been changing all the time. So that's how you look at those. Quick look at coal. We saw coal actually recover quite sharply on this upside target. We've got a new downside target, some 10% lower to $96 on API2. So that has kicked in, and we didn't get above the cloud on the lagging line, so we can't ignore that either. Looking at carbon, we see here on the EU contract, we were bearish this morning because of these downside targets. We do have an upside target, which is below the cloud, of course, with the medium term. So it does look like this is increasingly like another move to go lower, and this takes us back to the base, these targets, so really quite interesting there. And again, if you want to look at the shorter term picture, 10-minute targets this morning, these were given this morning, so you really can't ignore that. And then if we look at the 1 minute, again, downside targets this morning, you just can't ignore the targets. You've got to follow the targets. So that's carbon. If we look at UK carbon, picture is a little bit different. We've got a mixture of targets not activated. We don't have the downside target here, but if we go to the 10-minute and the 1 minute, we see there's a downside target in track there as well. So really quite key there on the 1 minute chart. We see the targets as well. So it really is quite clear cut now for carbon, and that's why we were neutral, bearish this morning. Now, if we look at TTF, this morning we had these downside targets that were not yet activated. They have since been activated with this move lower. We're down now about 4%. That's activated the downside targets. 2250 is the level we really do need to hold. Price is back below the cloud. Lagging line not yet below the cloud. But again, the counter trend target is not really looking very accurate. And we've got to go to the 10-minute chart. Downside targets, these were given at the end of last week. They've been met. A new downside one this morning, 24.79, another 2% lower. We might see a little uptick, but that's the target that's in train on the 10-minute. If you go to the 1 minute, that's really pretty clear as well. So you just can't ignore the targets. And then if we go to MVP, the picture is going to be pretty similar. Looking there, we see here the fact is we've got these downside targets, they're activated as well. If I look at summer gas in Europe, just out of interest, we see here we didn't activate the downside target there, but we've got downside targets here. And if we look at UK gas, summer gas, similar picture. You just can't ignore the fact we've got downside targets. That's where we're going. German power, we were bearish this morning. It was a really simple call. We had this downside target that was already activated, hadn't been activated on the gas chart, had been activated on power. If you look at the 10-minute chart, we see here we have these downside targets in train, and on the 1 minute chart, just first thing this morning, had all these targets. They were actually bold because they hadn't been met. They've since been met. Waiting for a new low to activate this downside target, but we are down 3.5%. So that is pretty bearish as well. That's it for today. All eyes on the US opening today. What's going to happen with this Nvidia chart? That's going to be really interesting. Watch for new lows, and your 1 minute chart's going to give you a heads up. Until next time, happy charting. Bye for now.